what are some of the key biomarkers that athletes, right, especially if you're a marathoner, should be looking at?
Kind of a list. I've got the list here. So there's C-reactive protein is one that, the list is beyond this. I'm just a little focused on the ones that InsideTracker measures because I know them best.
So we're here today with Renee Deehan from InsideTracker. You may have heard her on the Marni On The Move podcast in the past, but since I'm here for the Boston Marathon doing some coverage, we're gonna focus on what biomarkers, science, and things you need to know if you're an athlete running, racing, after the race, things you can dial into for your next race, and of course, what's new and exciting at InsideTracker. Renee, awesome. Thank you for setting this up, Renee. It's awesome to be here.
It is lovely to have you, and welcome to Boston.
Thank you. So first and foremost, before we talk running and all of the things that runners need to know, what is going on and what is new at InsideTracker?
That's a good question. I would say one of the things that we're really excited about is we will have a what we call a health span habit score report that will be coming out. And what that will do is it couples information that that we get from your fitness tracker together with knowledge about blood. It won't have access to your blood data, but it will have access to like your dietary habits or your how well you're sleeping, or how much caffeine you're consuming, and your recommendations, and which recommendations you're kind of checking into. So information about your behavior and fitness tracker data to kind of give you you use TrainingPeaks,
right?
So you know how like CTL is like a 6-week look back in terms of what your training load has been. This is like a 6-week look back that looks at your sleep habits and your exercise habits, and then can help guide you and say, here are the most important things to focus on for the next week. So that's one thing that we're excited about.
That's super exciting. I mean, InsideTracker has kind of been a pioneer in the space of looking at data and analyzing it across key blood biomarkers, also across DNA, and now sleep over the last few years, and integrating fitness trackers. So it's kind of cool that you're like adding this new element, and also there's your inner age versus your actual age, which is always something I've been super competitive with about, and anytime those two things get too close together, I freak out and eat oatmeal.
Yep, it does help.
I'm actually currently on a big kick to eat oatmeal every day for 3 months to see if I can lower my cholesterol. Did I tell you this?
No, I love this.
So thanks to InsideTracker for the last, like 5 or 6 years, I have an Excel spreadsheet of all of my blood, and I watch it. I look at it and I test every 4 to 6 months, sometimes every 3 times a year, which is so important for athletes, right? And I noticed that my LDL was going up, my HDL was going down, and of course, things were increasing. Now, knock on wood, I'm not someone that needs to worry. I'm not talking about over 200, but it's freaking me out that it's why is it going up? Well, 1, I haven't been eating oatmeal, and 2, I haven't been running. So are those two things, cardio and high fiber, important?
Absolutely. For LDL, both of those things are important, and I can say I think you're doing all of the right things. The other factor, which we can't do anything about, is age.
Right.
So hormones and estradiol levels definitely interplay with LDL. So that's just, I think we see a rise in LDL with age, which is actually why it's part of our inner age calculation, is because it is correlated with age. So some of it is just, eventually, no matter what we do, we may bump up against a wall. But that is great, and you're doing what is so exciting to me, and
I'll share the data with you to see what I can do.
It, right? Yeah. Because let's just say you're really consistent about your oatmeal for 3 months and it doesn't work for you, then Then
I don't have to eat oatmeal.
Then you don't have to eat oatmeal. You know that you can just move on to the next thing, or But I think that's really awesome that you're doing an N of 1 experiment, and that's what That's what we're all doing. We're messing around with our. It's like we get to do our own experiment.
Our own bodies. I mean, I will say that for the past few years, like my estradiol has been in a ditch, like all women over 45.
Same.
So that has not changed. So if I'm looking at my hormones and I'm looking at my diet and I'm looking at my blood, I think the only things that have changed for the last 10 months, I've not been doing my usual running cardio, and I have not been eating oatmeal.
Well,
so we'll
that's
see.
Great. We'll see.
I mean, we'll see. It could just be age, and it could be hereditary. You know, but and obviously there's things that you can take, like statins. But I just want to like avoid.
Try the lifestyle stuff first.
First
right?
lifestyle stuff. I mean, that's the whole idea behind InsideTracker, right? So you know what's happening in your body, and you can take action.
Yeah. Yes, and if your doctor's like, cool, you don't need to be on a statin, you can try these lifestyle things first, then awesome. And I will tell you, this is from our data, and this looked at, actually I don't remember the entire amount, the exact amount, but we looked at 20,000 of our users where we had before and after data in terms of LDL levels, and we saw that some people were able to improve their LDL cholesterol, some people were not.
Okay.
And one of the things that we saw is that the people that were able to improve their cholesterol over the course of about a year, they started taking more and more and more steps, which was really interesting. So there was, I think by the end of that year-long period, their daily step count was about 2,000 steps higher than the people who were not able to improve their LDL.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
So go for
I'm going to try it.
You're going to get your steps in this week, right?
I'm definitely getting my steps in this week. So what are some of the key biomarkers that athletes, right, especially if you're a marathoner, should be looking at? Yeah.
No, I love this. And I'll give you a kind of a list. I've got the list here. So there's C-reactive protein is one that, and the list is beyond this. I'm just a little focused on the ones that InsideTracker measures because I know them best.
Right.
And I am not, I would say, I did not do a PhD in exercise physiology and recovery or anything like that. So there are my caveats. But we look at C-reactive protein, measure of inflammation, AST, which is a liver enzyme, and it can be elevated when there's muscle breakdown. There's, of course, testosterone and free testosterone. So these are things that also they can decrease if you have trained a lot. If it's like a burst of exercise or that you're doing, that can increase your testosterone levels for a brief period of time. But we're sort of looking at longer term changes if you have a very big event and you're trying to figure out when can I get back at it, et cetera.
Right.
And also SHBG, which is sex hormone binding globulin, and this is like a blood transport protein for sex hormones. And also is white blood cell count. That's another one that's associated, and cortisol, our stress hormones. So that's kind of a packaged list of biomarkers that can be measured at the doctors, et cetera. But these are things that oftentimes it's maybe not true for every single one of them that I mentioned, but as a group, they tend to move transiently.
It's okay. Move transiently.
They tend to move transiently after exercise. But what you're looking for is, if you really are getting to a point where you're overtraining or you're worried about overtraining, some of these markers can, let's say, increase and stay high for too long, or decrease and stay low for too long, like in the case of testosterone. Or, for example, cortisol might be really high. CRP, I'll tell you, when I ran a 50K, I did a blood test before and afterwards, and my CRP was skyrockets.
What does CRP stand for?
That stands for C-reactive protein.
Okay,
it's
CRP.
a general inflammation marker. So, of course, it was a really big event on my body, and, it took probably 2 weeks for those levels to come down afterwards.
How did you feel?
I mean, I felt like crap the day afterwards.
I mean, because these are like important things to think about. Like my own example is like, there was a point of my training, I think it was like last year, where I just felt like really tired for an entire month of training, and I was like not really training that hard. So I couldn't figure it out. And then I looked at my blood and it was like, okay, actually my iron was lower. And also my B12 was like higher, which is weird, but a mix of things were happening in my blood that weren't supposed to be happening, and obviously I was probably overtraining, but like I didn't feel like it, but my body was like, you're overtraining.
Yep. And that's, I mean, I think the biomarkers are great, but obviously kind of those clinical symptoms are really important to look at. And I'll say, and this is, you have more endurance experience than I do, so
you just did a 50K.
I did one 50K.
Okay.
But when I started running, it was kind of a couch to 50K.
Yeah.
But when I started running, I definitely went at it way too fast, right? Like, I was your classic enthusiastic, new to running. But I realized that I was overtraining in the beginning. Now that I look back on it, I was just going at it too hard, right? My easy pace wasn't my easy pace. Like,
that's a new athlete classic move.
It was adorable of me, right? Like, of course, now after doing some proper training, I realized what I was doing. But after, I would say that was actually different from what my blood looked like after, and I didn't test my blood then, so I just don't know.
I was going to say, were you at InsideTracker?
I was at Inside, because how can you not run when you're at InsideTracker?
Right, I was like,
it's
almost like working at Brooks. Like, everyone that works at Brooks running, like they all are runners. It's like a prerequisite.
Right?
Yeah. You have to be an athlete.
I hate running.
Yeah.
But here I am. Totally. And
so you weren't running at the time?
It was interesting because I was like, I started working and running kind of at the same time. But that, in the beginning, I really did have that period of extensive overtraining. I would say after the race itself, it was like a healthy period of, I really overly exerted myself. And I felt like, I didn't feel that bad during the race at all. But of course, the next day, another bless my heart beginner move was not to take the day off of work. Like the race was on Sunday, and I was like, oh, I should have just had zero expectations on Monday.
I think it's hard though. Like so many people, like whenever there are these races, like they'll have yoga like the next day after the race, and I'm like, no, just because yoga is like relaxing, like you shouldn't go to yoga. Like just go for a walk. And relax. Like like sleep, right? Like sleep is so important. That's something I'm asking people this week. It's like, how important is it to like sleep all week long before a race versus the night before and the night after? Yeah. Like how do you, like where do you stand on that? And like when you're looking at data, just curious.
Yeah, that is a great question. It really is a battery, right? And if you have already drained your battery and you're pushing your limit, then you have got to figure out how to recharge that battery. Obviously, sleep being critical. Personally, I can tell you that I like had a sinus issue. So I was getting very poor sleep for years, and then I had surgery for the sinus issue, and all of a sudden now I'm getting over 7 hours of sleep, which is very different because before it was like 5, 6 hours. Okay. And I'm kind of like a nicer person. I feel like I can be much more effective in strength workouts, certainly more effective in endurance workouts. Everything is better. So at one point my trainer said to me, he's like, it's hard for you to progress because you're not sleeping. Right? You're unrested. So your muscles do not have time to rebuild and recover, and it's a real deal.
So you made the mistake of not taking off the day after and you were exhausted?
That was more, I was like mentally exhausted. I felt like cognitively I really wasn't in the best place to be working, and probably could have used like a day watching, I don't know, Killing Netflix or something.
Yeah, totally. InsideTracker offers all of these biomarkers for testing for athletes.
Mm-hmm. That absolutely. There is an endurance category.
Yeah.
So the ultimate panel, which measures 48 biomarkers, kind of covers a whole bunch of different categories, and one category is sleep, another one is endurance, another one is heart health, etc. So there are definitely athlete-focused categories in there. And that'll give you access to a smaller panel of categories that you could test more often, or if you didn't want to spend as much money, it's also
so there's so many different packages on InsideTracker that people could look into. And then the other thing I kind of mentioned was iron, right? So do you look at those biomarkers also if you're training?
Yeah, and this is a big one, right? There's iron, ferritin, transferrin, saturation. So those are kind of like a suite of biomarkers that can give you, and it can't give you like an anemia diagnosis or anything like that, but it will give you an idea of where you stand there. And of course, especially with athletes, and especially female athletes, we do see challenges with iron. And it's good to know that because, when you're walking around feeling super fatigued and tired all of the time, there could be a fix in there that's actually relatively straightforward, like consuming more iron-containing foods or a supplement.
Do you recommend athletes test at the beginning of their training cycle and then after their event, like in that order, or?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think I guess it depends. I like that. I think that's just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Because I think in the most ideal world, you would get like one in the beginning, and maybe one like before the race where you're kind of in like peak fitness.
Yeah.
And maybe in that like recovery period before the race, like you're pretty rested, like things are just gonna look good.
Yeah.
But then things will be wonky if you did it right after the race. So I think if you are going to, let's say you were gonna do 2 like you suggested, unless you were acutely trying to see, well, what biomarkers were dramatically affected by my, by my marathon. By my acute event that I did, then I would wait 3 months, or not 3 months, 3 weeks after the event. Because usually by then, unless you really are still feeling really fatigued or something like that, things should have equilibrated.
So for anyone who's doing the Boston Marathon, in the next few weeks, it would be beneficial for them to, even if they feel great, like just to know where you're at and set the tone. Like I like to have a concept of where I'm at. Like I always compare feeling versus data, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you do the same thing. Like you're like, you've got a Garmin, like we're all looking at our heart rate data.
Yeah.
Renee is on TrainingPeaks like me. I'm definitely like obsessed with analyzing data. So, and then I always say like, how do I feel? But that's how I can tell you that like my cholesterol went up and I know what I'm doing differently and I know how I feel. So, it's never too late to like start on that journey.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so have you tested before and after a race? Have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've tested, like I said, I've tested a few times a year, but I have tested, right when I start training for something and then after, and I've noticed things like my cortisol will be super high. I mean, I've tested too soon after an event, like, like 3 days after. So of course my cortisol is high. I think my iron was low one time and I don't remember the other numbers, but the time that I was feeling tired in the middle of my training cycle, I also tested and was able to see that like my iron was low. And when I think about my diet, like I probably wasn't eating the right things at the time because I wasn't overtraining. But it's like your body is so sensitive, and I think when you're an athlete,
Yeah.
Like,
people get really smart about how they feel. So did you start consuming more iron and did you feel better?
Yeah, I took an iron supplement actually for a couple of like weeks, like whatever the doctor, like, because you can't take an iron supplement for, I don't know if you can take it forever or not, but I was just told to take it. And then I retested and everything was fine.
And then it was good.
Yeah, it was fine.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm a little bit crazy that way.
No, I think I love it. I mean, I think it's essentially preventive health, right?
Right.
I mean, and some of it is performance, and it's fun to see that, right? It'll be really cool if your LDL goes down after all of your hard work eating oatmeal. And even if not, then you have some knowledge that like maybe oatmeal is just like not your bag of fiber. But
maybe I need to increase my broccoli.
Yeah. I love
Okay, so what are you up to at InsideTracker with like all the science stuff and AI? Because I know that is what you are doing at InsideTracker. I mean, we could talk about running forever, and we're gonna get back into it. But well, actually, you know what? We can talk about the science and AI after. What's your next running event? You mentioned you've done a 50K. Like, how many? Have you done any marathons or like, yeah?
So I can't road run.
Okay.
So I think I made a pact with myself at the age of 15 that I would never run a marathon, and I'm like, I'm gonna stick to that. So I would like to try a 50 miler, just because I already did the 50K. It was a trail 50K. Trail running to me is like the most amazing lie I can tell myself, right? It's not running. Like I'm just trotting through the woods and sometimes running, right? Like, yeah. So I am able to trick myself on the trails in a way that I cannot trick myself on the road. So I don't know how road runners do it. You guys are amazing. I think it's so much harder.
Same thing. I like brainwash myself. Like I basically tell myself I'm just going out for like a peaceful experience in nature on the roads.
Totally, 100%.
To get air, to get out of the office.
Yeah, hang out with the dog. Like it's So it's I just literally lie to myself. So and it's fun to like run down. I don't know. I like the technical challenges of it.
Oh, really?
Because it's a good way to focus my mind and forget about everything else because you're too busy trying not to twist an ankle.
And so you wear a Garmin.
I do wear a Garmin.
And it has good GPS.
It does, yeah, it does. I don't think I've ever had a problem with my Garmin GPS. It's always good or good. I've never noticed if it is not
Do you use GPS or you just go on you know where you're running?
Oh, I definitely use GPS.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, no, even I run in the fells, the Bostonians will know this, but I run in the fells, which is maybe 20 minutes from here. It's kind of the closest long trail runs that one can do, and it is so easy to get absolutely lost in there. So I'm constantly like, wait, where am I? Am I off the Skyline route? I don't know. And there's actually like I think there's a 40 miler where you just like do the same route 7 times. I have run this route, this like 7.5 mile route, probably, I don't know, 30 times in my life. I have never gotten it right. And there are trailblazers.
That's why I don't trail run. To be honest, like I think between like tripping and falling, and I can't read a map, and I refuse to wear glasses. So like it's just not. It's a recipe for disaster for me. But on the road, I'm good. But so, what shoes do you like to run in? Because it sounds like do you have a certain trail shoe?
Topic. Personally, I like the Ultras.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the wide toe box. I have also done the Hoka Speed Goats, liked those.
Okay.
But for road running, I have the Saucony Endorphin Speeds. But I haven't tried tons. Oh, I've also done the Solomon Sense rides, I think.
For trail running.
For trail running, yeah.
And so what's next for you? Like you said you want to do an event coming up.
I would love to try this 50 miler.
Where is it?
We'll see. There's one, I want to say it's actually in Massachusetts. I found it because the 50K that I did also had a 50 miler, and you could just tell who was running the 50 miler because they just like look different from the rest of us.
Was it like Barclay Marathon type situation? Like, have you seen that? The Barclay Marathons?
Those are the ones in the woods, right?
Yeah,
Really like you're hunting for book pages and things.
Yes, totally.
It was not that advanced. I think as far as trail running goes, this one's pretty rolling hills and beautiful Vermonty and like not super technical. But, there are cutoffs, and I will tell you that the way I run, I would not make the 50-mile cutoff. So I had to find a 50-miler that was had an interesting enough amount of elevation, because I really like going uphill, where I would not be super stressed out about making the time cutoffs.
Yeah, that would be stressful.
Yeah, I think
it's so easy to get lost too, like because you're not running with like hundreds of people, are you?
This is true. Although I'll say the one that I did was it was easy enough.
And so will you use information from InsideTracker like before you do that race or after?
I mean, always, yes. I find the information from InsideTracker to be super helpful. It's helped it's helped me make a couple of different decisions about going on HRT, going on a statin, and I would say that diet and nutrition for me is an evolving and ongoing process.
Well, I feel like it changes as we age, what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, protein's always hard for me. I'm not really a big meat eater.
Okay.
So having to be really vigilant, especially in my 40s, having to be really vigilant about the amount of protein I'm consuming I just have to think really hard about it.
Yeah.
I have to plan.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, what this current science says that you're supposed to eat your body weight in protein, right?
It's hard.
So where do you get 100 grams of protein in a day or 120, whatever?
Yeah.
I'm constantly drinking smoothies.
Same.
And it's still not enough. Even if I had, what it was I think it was on David, oh my God, Jimmy Fallon. They had Patrick Schwarzenegger was on. He was doing the White Lotus smoothie, and he put 4 scoops in. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
I know. I should put in 1 more scoop.
It would be really thick and gross, but it's a lot.
It is.
You really do. I mean, that's one experiment I would love to try, is to actually do it, to eat the weight in protein and see how I feel. I
think I would feel good, honestly. I have to say that I'm not a big supplement person. I am religiously trying creatine now because I'm just...
Someone
said, oh my God, there's gummies? This comes in gummy form?
Wait, I saw that. I need those too. Yeah.
They're delicious. Yeah. That I can do.
I'm going to be off camera in 5 minutes. So you're taking creatine?
Yeah, I'm trying that out. I am trying to build muscle, and I am trying to be more dedicated about protein. But I have to say that I definitely supplement with whey protein. Protein supplement is the most. It is the only supplement where I have noticed a difference. I really do feel more full. I feel like I do have more energy. I feel stronger in my workouts. This has an effect.
Okay. I think I think I need to go past my usual smoothie to experience the benefits. If it's 2 smoothies a day, I'm trying to eat fish for dinner or something, then, I feel you have to do it every day like that. It can't just be once. I'm going to do that after the cholesterol experiment.
Yeah, nice. Just go Saxon on it. Just keep it going.
Full Saxon.
Yeah, I'll try that myself. It'll be really
You'll have to let me know. You can make a video on Instagram. Back to InsideTracker, because we could talk about running all day and I still have more questions about your shoes. InsideTracker has a pro program. So talk to me about how this works for coaches and athletes.
Yeah, so if you are a coach and you want your athlete, and your athletes also want to be trying and working with you within InsideTracker, we do have a pro platform whereby, let's say you have 5 people you're coaching and they all do InsideTracker, you'll be able to, if they give you permission to, you'll be able to see all of their results and work with them to select the best recommendations for them, et cetera.
Yeah.
And if there's a specific playbook here, and that's what we were talking about earlier, whereby if you're concerned that they are exhibiting signs and symptoms of overtraining.
Right. Which you can also see in heart rate. If their heart rate is super low and they're trying really hard and they're tired.
Mm-hmm. Or if their heart rate does not come down as quickly as it normally does, it's another really good sign too. So there's changes in heart rate variability that you can look for. But I think it's a lot of the stuff that we talked about before too, which is I don't know why I feel tired, but I do. So something is off. So maybe you're training too much. Maybe you're just not getting the recovery you need. Maybe not getting that recovery is in the form of nutrition or supplements or rest or, but the playbook kind of helps unpack that. And then if there's blood data along with it and you see, let's say, changes in their testosterone to cortisol ratio, that's a great biomarker to look at for overtraining, as well as, like I said, CRP, cortisol, inflammatory markers, either a sustained decrease or increase in white blood cells. So there's, if you take all of that together, it'll give you a reasonable picture of what's going on, and you might help kind of figure it out.
And this is like obviously serious athletes, like can be recreational athletes, pro athletes. I know you work with a lot of pros, and so it doesn't matter like what level you are. It's like how deeply immersed are you in your health? Like just because you're exercising doesn't mean you're healthy. So
yeah, that's true.
It's a start, but you've got to have the full picture.
Totally. And I would say like the new stuff that's shaking at InsideTracker, it is AI all the time.
Yeah.
We'll have a new version of our chatbot that will be rolling out. So our existing chatbot, it's like talking to ChatGPT. It's based on a GPT model.
Oh.
And yeah, you can go on now and ask it questions.
Yeah, that's
cool. There's a chatbot. And the chatbot has, the first version of the chatbot had access just to, it's a foundational model, so something like what you would just use on Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity. Right. But then we essentially take that chatbot and point it at we pointed it at our FAQs and all of our blogs. So then it had like kind of a specialized version of it that had more knowledge about health and wellness and lifestyle factors and preventive health and biomarkers and what that means and how to interpret things. And now this version that we'll be launching, I think next month, will have access to your blood data if you wanted to. So
that's
you can
awesome.
Ask it questions.
So I can ask you questions about my cholesterol.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
And then versions after that, it'll have access to your recommendations too. So you can ask, we want to be able to further and further personalize it with additional information, biomarker information beyond just blood. So like DNA and fitness trackers. And we also want to make it a little more fun, right?
Yeah.
A little more conversational. So that's the other stuff.
And the AI is like game changing. And integrating a chat bot that's ChatGPT inspired is like the way to go, because everyone sits on ChatGPT now. Like Google is over. Google is over.
Did you hear that?
No, Google has their own thing now.
Definitely, they all.
You know it, right?
Do.
Like my partner was here for an AI conference, and she's like, she's done with Microsoft. She's using all the Google work stuff, and she's using that.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called.
Gemini.
Yeah, she likes it a lot.
It can be really useful.
Yeah.
I mean, the challenge that we're having, honestly, is that our head data scientist is like, it's confidently wrong. Like that's the term that she uses to describe it, and it's so perfect because it really is confidently wrong. So actually, you
have to fact check it.
Yes. Yeah. So that's actually a big part of what we're doing, is figuring out the right ways to make sure that the information that we are giving to our users is high quality information.
Yeah.
So we've come up with all of these kind of different ways to test it. And
I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
This has been super awesome. Thank you so much, Renee, for dropping in and for having me over here at the InsideTracker, and just sharing all the exciting AI information and the biomarkers that athletes should be watching.
My pleasure, and good luck to all the runners out there.